welcome to Holly's BookTube. I'm Holly. So the book prompt I did for this video was something I did on my own, and I know it's something that a couple other booktubers have done in different ways, but I decided I wanted to read books based on Zodiac sign, and so there have been a few people that have done that, but I wanted to do one for every sign all throughout the year. So I was going to read them the month they are applicable. And since it's January and it's also my sign, I decided to start with Aquarius, and then we'll end the year with Capricorn. So Aquariuses are known to be humanitarian, creative, free-spirited. Sometimes they're called alien-like. They're very, very independent. Which sometimes to a point of detriment where they can be a little standoffish towards people. They don't need necessarily other people to feel fulfilled. They can also be impulsive and inconsistent. So kind of shuffling through a lot of book recommendations, I decided on Winterwood by Shea Earnshaw. So first I'm going to just kind of review this book, and then we'll kind of talk about if I think it applies to the Aquarius sign or not. Winterwood is about a girl named Nora Walker. She lives in a town out in the middle of nowhere called Fairhaven. She comes from a long line of women witches in her family that goes back hundreds of years. They've always lived in this town, and it's said that they come from the dirt of Fairhaven, the soil. Pretty much no one lives in this like wooded town. It's her and her mother, a elderly neighbor, and then there is a camp for wayward boys across the lake. And those are the only people that occupy the town in the wintertime. In the summertime, people come, like seasonal people that own some houses in the area. But in the wintertime, that's it, and we are in the wintertime during this novel. In this area, there is a forest called the Wicker Woods, I think. Wicker Woods. And there's rumors that they're haunted and nobody goes into them. But in reality, Nora knows that the woods aren't haunted, they're just alive. And historically, Walker women go into these wicker woods every full moon and collect things that are lost in the woods, things that have been lost throughout time in this area always seem to unearth themselves in the woods. And they go during a full moon because that's the only time that the forest falls asleep, so they can go in there safely. Otherwise, it's way too dangerous to go into these woods. I don't know why they collect lost things. I know they're kind of looking for things that are more valuable, that have worth, I guess, or maybe you feel some connection with. I assumed early on that they did it to make money, like that was how historically the family would make money. But they don't sell the things they find all the time. I guess if it feels super expensive, they'll go down and sell it to an antique store, but to the nearest town. But they keep the knickknacks a lot. Like a lot of it seems to be in the house later, and so I don't understand why they go every full moon and do this. So a really bad snowstorm has come through the town and has cut off the town to the main road, so no one can get in or out. And all the phone lines and electricity is completely down. And there has been news that a boy from the camp across the lake has been missing now for 2 weeks. So when Nora, at the beginning of the book, Nora is doing her monthly moon forest walk to collect the things, she discovers a boy in the snow. He gets woken up and they both don't know how he got there, especially since the forest is so dangerous. It's like, how did this guy just show up? And they both figure that he is the boy that is missing from the camp. His name is Oliver, and he has no memories of the last 2 weeks or how he got to where he was. And really, because it's so cold and it's just been snow-filled forever, he should be dead. I'm going to sidebar to more about Nora now real quick. She is a witch, but she doesn't have her nightshade yet. Nightshade is what all the Walker women call their witchy powers. So each Walker woman has their own unique power that they can utilize. So for example, her mother has the power to charm bees and make them kind of subdued. So then she utilizes that and takes their honey and probably beeswax. And then she goes around the country and sells the product, basically. And that's how her mother makes money. And there's a long line of, everybody has their own power. Like none of the powers seem to repeat themselves. So they all have these unique powers, and I can't remember all of them right now, honestly. But they're all, some of them are macabre, some of them are, you know, kind of, I would call the bee charming one kind of cute, you know? So it kind of varies, and they're all different, and they all discover them at different times. A lot of them present themselves when they are pretty young, though, and Nora feels very insecure because she is, I'm guessing she's like 17, 18. I don't know if it's, I can't remember if it's actually stated, but she's feeling very insecure that she hasn't been presented with her nightshade yet, and she thinks maybe I won't even get one, because there is a history of a Walker woman, maybe even women, not ever finding out what their nightshade is. Nora was really close with her grandmother, who passed away, and her grandmother was really into being a witch, while Nora's mother hates being a witch. And there is a book of spells, basically, and it's also mixed in with the Walker history in this book that her mom has hidden away in her room, and Nora kind of steals it and uses some of these spells in the book. And the only reason I'm bringing this up, really, is that excerpts from the book are in Winterwood. So there's pages that are black, and these are supposed to be like pages from the spell book. So it will have a history of a certain Walker woman, and then it will have a spell at the very end, if my camera will focus. And I really liked that. They're in between chapters, and I thought it was a good break. And the stories are really cute and interesting. So that first night, Oliver stays the night at her house because he doesn't want to go back to camp, and he's freezing, basically. And I think that's probably why the mom has gone throughout this book, because Oliver and another person kind of stay the night in this house throughout the book. And I think that would be a lot harder if the mother was there. Conveniently absent parent. And I should say, once they get back to the house, it's pretty much insta-love between Nora and Oliver. And that's not something that I am really into, personally. It was like doki doki, oh my god, my heart's beating, my palms are sweaty, I think I love him, almost immediately. On both sides. We do see the perspective of both characters in this novel. I would say Oliver a lot less than Nora, but it was too much for me, the insta love. I was like, come on, you've known each other for 5 minutes. She discovered you in the snow. You need to heat up again, but you're already like in love. I also feel like we didn't really need to see the chapters from Oliver's perspective. I don't feel like they added anything to the story. There wasn't like, oh, I need to see his side of the story so I can get the whole picture. Like, no, we could have really just been with Nora the whole time, and it would have been perfectly fine. I felt that the voices between Nora and Oliver were not different enough. They talked and acted the same, so it just didn't matter to me. Like, I would have been perfectly fine with a whole Nora-based book. There's also I just feel like I can't talk about a huge chunk of the book because a lot of it is swirled in this kind of mystery. And because it's swirled in this mystery, there's a lot of things that connect, and, you know? And so I feel like if I say one thing, then it'll connect to this other thing, and it's like, ugh. But I will say, I am really bad at figuring out mysteries and twists and anything like that. I cannot figure it out. Everyone around me, if we're watching a TV show or a movie, they will figure it out 20 minutes in or 2 episodes in, whatever. And I'm sitting there going, what? Really? And by the last episode or by the end of the movie or whatever, when the twist drops or the mystery is solved or something, I am typically shocked, I tell you. So when this book started turning into kind of a mystery situation, I was surprised, I said that weird, surprised to find that I figured this mystery out pretty quickly. And so for someone like me who sucks at that kind of stuff, to figure out the mystery pretty early on, I remember I put the book down and I sat there and I was like, no. Like, I don't figure things out. And I totally thought throughout the book, I'm like, I'm wrong. There's no way I'm going to be right. I'm never right. It's fine. Come to find at the end of the book, I was right the whole time. Okay. So I know I read some other reviews, and I know some people were kind of disappointed in that aspect, that it was very easy to figure out. It wasn't like you were shocked or excited to keep going when the big reveal comes. It's kind of like, yeah, we all knew that, right? Yeah, okay. I know I'm being a downer about this book, but there are things I did like. I did like the descriptions of the scenery. I thought the writing was very atmospheric, and it has like a moodiness to it, and so you really, really like just feel it. I don't know how to describe it. You feel like you're there. You can feel like you can see the scenery and the feeling of everything that's going on. And there is a little bit of a creepiness to it. It's not too heavy, which I liked, but you did feel like, oh, the Wicker Woods, and oh, like the lake and the snow, and like everything's so cold. And again, I liked the snippets from the spell book. I was really into that. And I liked that even though Nora came from a witchy family, she was still scared of things. Like, there's a family graveyard nearby, and she never wanted to look at it or go into it because it totally creeped her out. She's scared of the Wicker Woods. She every time she has to do her moonwalk, she's scared to go in. And I really appreciated that, because I feel like when I read a lot of witchy novels or fantasy novels, like the protagonist is never really scared of things that are around them that I feel like a average person would kind of be irked out by. Okay, so in terms of Aquariusness, I thought it was pretty good in the sense of the independent, kind of alone stance. Also kind of the Aquarius is kind of a weirdo situation. The town and the boys' camp kind of know that she's a witch. Like, it's kind of a rumor, but everyone just kind of knows she is. So there is kind of a, oh, don't go near Nora. She's weird. She's a witch. Well, you know. So I kind of feel that like alien-esque, weirdo situation, which I thought applied. And also, she's very independent. She kind of talks about how she doesn't need anyone. She doesn't need friends. She doesn't need someone to be there. She can be alone. And I thought that applied too. I think it is good as an Aquarius book. I didn't like it really, not too much as a book, but I did feel like it does apply to the Zodiac sign. And I have a quote that I kind of thought applied to the independentness of Nora. Perhaps it's easier being alone, building walls, a solitary life with no one to lose, no one to break your heart. And I do kind of feel like that's an Aquarius thing to say. Kind of build walls so you can't get hurt, and, you know, I'm just better off alone. I know a lot of people have liked this book, so I feel kind of bad just that I wasn't too into it. But I give Winterwood 2 stars, sadly. I really wanted to like it, but it just had a lot of elements that I just wasn't into. It took a long time for anything to happen. It took about 100 pages for stuff to start slowly happening. All the characters had the same voice to me. I felt like the Wicker Woods were underutilized. They were talked about so much in this book and how scary they were, and it didn't really come into play in a satisfying way at all. I also didn't like the insta-love. That's not the kind of love I like. If it's something you like, then maybe this book is for you. But I like to kind of build up into a relationship or a crush before we get too intense. Okay, so let's get to the stats really quick because I like doing it. This was published in 2019. I consider it young adult fantasy. It's set in the Pacific Northwest ? I don't know if it gets more specific than that. I'm just gonna say Pacific Northwest of the United States. And it is 320 pages-ish. There is a little bit of an epilogue that's not numbered, but I'm just gonna say 320 pages. Thanks for hanging out with me. I hope you enjoyed this Zodiac-based review. Please join me next month when we do Pisces. Bye.